The city rain fell in silver needles, drumming on tin roofs and turning gutters into rushing streams, while 12-year-old Arjun, barefoot and soaked to the bone, pressed a crumpled white shirt to his thin chest like a secret treasure. Streetlights painted golden halos on the wet pavement, but beyond the iron gates of Vikram Malhotra's mansion, the world felt colder. Guarded by two towering men in crisp uniforms, whose eyes narrowed at the sight of the ragpicker boy dripping on their polished driveway, Arjun's fingers trembled not from the chill, but from the weight of what he carried. The shirt smelled faintly of expensive soap and something sharper, like fear. "I must speak to Mr. Malhotra," he told the guards, his voice small, yet edged with steel. "It is about his son." One guard snorted, ready to shoo him away, but the other caught the fire in Arjun's dark eyes and paused, radioing the house instead. Inside the mansion, Vikram Malhotra sat in a leather chair that cost more than most people earned in a year, steam curling from his coffee as he scanned stock reports on a glowing screen. The guard's voice crackled through the intercom, a street boy with urgent news about Master Rohan. Vikram's brow creased. His 17-year-old son had been quiet at dinner, locked in his room since, but nothing unusual. Teenagers sulked. Still, curiosity tugged harder than annoyance, and he waved the guard to bring the boy in. The study door swung open, and Arjun stepped across marble so shiny it mirrored the chandelier's diamonds above. Water pooled at his feet, yet he stood straight, clutching the shirt like a flag of truce. Vikram leaned forward, recognizing the monogrammed cuff, at once R.M. Rohan Malhotra, a shirt tailored in London, now streaked with grime and rain. "Where did you get this?" Vikram asked, his voice low, the kind that closed million-dollar deals. Arjun swallowed, then lifted the shirt higher. "Sir, your son handed me this shirt yesterday." The words hung in the perfumed air, simple, almost polite, but the room seemed to shrink. Vikram's pulse quickened. Rohan never gave away clothes, never spoke to strangers, never wandered beyond the gated colony. Before the millionaire could demand answers, Arjun's gaze locked on his, steady as a heartbeat, and he finished the sentence that would shatter the night. "He told me to give it to you, because he's gone." The coffee cup trembled in Vikram's hand. Hot liquid sloshed over the rim, but he barely felt the burn. Gun, such a small word, yet it echoed like a gunshot in the silent study. Arjun's eyes flickered to the shirt, then back to Vikram. And in that moment, the millionaire saw something flicker too, a shadow of his son's face in the boy's grimy features, as if the city itself had sent a messenger. The guards shifted, unsure whether to drag the boy out or stand frozen. Outside, thunder rolled, and the rain intensified, drumming harder, as though the sky itself leaned closer to listen. Vikram set the cup down with a clink that sounded too loud. "What do you mean, gone?" he whispered, the question scraping his throat raw. Arjun's fingers tightened on the fabric, knuckles white. "He was at the big rubbish dump near the old bridge, sir, alone." He looked lost. The word lost lodged in Vikram's chest like a blade. He pictured Rohantal, quiet, always sketching in corners, while Vikram flew to Singapore, London, New York. Had the boy been planning this? Had the shirt been a goodbye? Arjun took one careful step forward, water dripping from his hair. "He gave me the shirt and said, 'Tell my father I don't need it anymore.'" Then he walked into the crowd and vanished. The study's grandfather clock ticked louder, each second stretching the silence until it felt ready to snap. Vikram stood slowly, his shadow looming over the boy, yet for the first time in years he felt small. He reached for the shirt, fingers brushing Arjun's cold ones, and felt a folded paper tucked inside the collar, a note, edges soft from rain. His heart hammered as he unfolded it under the chandelier's glare, but Arjun's next breath stopped him cold. "There's more, sir," the boy said, voice barely above the rain. "He left something else. Something only you would understand." Vikram's eyes snapped up, meeting Arjun's, and in that shared gaze the mansion's walls seemed to fade, leaving only the storm the shirt, and the terrifying space where a sun used to be. The porcelain shards of Vikram's coffee cup glittered across, the marble-like tiny stars fallen from a broken sky, steam still curling from the dark spill while the millionaire's question, "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" tore through the study with a raw edge he hadn't used since his own father died. Arjun stood ankle-deep in the mess, unmoved by the crash or the fury in Vikram's eyes, and began to speak in the calm way children do when they have seen too much too soon. He told how the rubbish dump smelled of rotting fruit and burning plastic the previous afternoon. How he had been digging for bottles when a tall boy in clean shoes stepped out of the hair messy, eyes soft but red-rimmed, carrying the white shirt like a flag of surrender. Rohan had pressed the shirt into Arjun's hands without greeting, only whispering, "Give this to my father," before slipping a folded scrap of paper inside the collar and melting back into the swirl of scavengers and stray dogs. Vikram's fingers shook so badly, he nearly dropped the note as he snatched it free. The ink had bled a little from the rain, but the words still cut clean. "Dad, I can't live in your shadow anymore. I'm sorry." The sentence looped inside Vikram's skull, louder than the thunder outside, because every boardroom victory, every private jet, every late-night call had built that shadow brick by brick, while Rohan grew quieter, thinner, sketching in corners. Vikram never entered. A sudden memory flashed Rohan at 10, holding up a drawing of a boat on blue waves, asking if they could sail together someday. Vikram had laughed, promised when the deal closes, and the drawing had vanished into a drawer. Arjun watched the color drain from the rich man's face, and added, almost kindly, he looked sad, "Sir," like he was carrying a mountain no one else could see. The boy's gentle truth landed harder than any shout. Vikram felt the mountain shift onto his own shoulders. He paced past leather-bound books he never read, past awards that suddenly felt like chains, until he stopped at the window where city lights blurred through rain. "Take me there," he said, voice low, urgent. "Show me the exact place." Arjun hesitated, glancing at the guards who now hovered like silent crows. But Vikram was already pulling on a coat, the note clenched in his fist. The gate swung open into the storm, and the luxury car that usually glided to five-star hotels now crawled through flooded alleys, headlights cutting tunnels in the downpour. Arjun sat small in the leather seat, giving directions in short bursts, left at the temple, straight past the broken fountain while Vikram's mind raced ahead to the dump, to the moment his son had decided the shirt, the mansion, the father were all too heavy to carry. Street dogs scattered from the beams, and the wipers fought a losing battle against the rain, each swipe revealing another slice of the city Vikram had ignored. Women huddled under plastic sheets, children chasing leaking gutters for coins, lives that breathed while he counted profits. When the car finally lurched to a stop at the edge of the dump, the stench rolled in through the cracked window, thick and sour. Yet Vikram stepped out without umbrella or complaint, shoes sinking into mud. Arjun led him between mountains of trash, where fires smoldered in oil drums, past shadows that watched with hollow eyes, until they reached a cleared circle of dirt marked by a single footprint, still holding rainwater. "Here," Arjun whispered, pointing to the ground. He stood right here, and looked back once, like he wanted to run home but couldn't. Vikram knelt, fingers brushing the print as if it might warm under his touch, and felt the first crack in the wall he had built around his heart. Guilt rushed through like floodwater, cold and unstoppable. Somewhere in the dark, a siren wailed, and Vikram realized the night was far from over. The shirt was only the first clue, the note only the first confession, and the city itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see if a father could find the son he had lost long before the boy ever walked away. At the chat, the dump breathed under the single buzzing street lamp, a living beast of plastic bags and broken toys that rustled like dry leaves whenever the wind pushed through, and Vikram's polished shoes sank into the soft rot with every step. The squelch loud in the hush that followed Arjun's quiet "here" The boy stopped beside a flattened carton, where the mud still held the shape of a taller footprint, and there, half buried under a torn rice sack, lay the small pile that made Vikram's breath catch. A journal with cracked leather corners, a thin cord bracelet woven from red and blue threads, and a pale bus ticket poking out like a white flag. Arjun knelt first, brushing ash from the cover so gently it might have been a sleeping bird, then handed the journal up to the millionaire, whose trembling fingers left smears of mud across the first page. Inside, pencil lines danced sketches of mountains wearing snowcaps, oceans that curled like cats, cities built from candy-colored roofs, and, between the drawings, Rohan's handwriting spilled secrets. I stand in Dad's office, and the windows show only his name in gold. I am the smudge no one sees. Another page. If I draw the world small enough, maybe I can carry it away. Vikram's throat closed. He had bought Rohan tablets and tutors, mocked the paint under his nails as wasting time, and now every stroke felt like a slap he had delivered himself. Arjun lifted the bracelet next, turning it so the cheap beads caught the weak light. He twisted this off his own wrist, the boy said, voice soft as falling ash. Said rich things weigh you down when you want to fly. The bus ticket fluttered in Vikram's grip, destination printed in blurry ink. Departure time, 5:30 a.m. tomorrow, which meant Rohan had less than a night's head start, and the whole hungry city to hide in. A shout rose from the edge of the dump. An old shopkeeper waving a lantern shuffled closer, squinting at Vikram's expensive coat, before nodding at Arjun's question. Tall boy, yes, quiet, bought 2 bananas, and asked, which bus goes farthest for the least money boarded? The midnight one toward the coast. The words struck Vikram like hail. The coast was 300 kilometers of fishing villages and unmarked roads where a boy could vanish into salt and sky. He pressed the journal to his chest, as if it were Rohan's heartbeat, then looked down at Arjun, whose thin shoulders carried the weight of knowing streets Vikram had only flown over. Will you come with me? Vikram asked, surprising himself with the plea in his voice. Arjun's eyes widened, then narrowed with something fierce and bright. I know the back ways, the night stalls, the conductors who don't check tickets, he answered, and for the first time the millionaire saw not a rag picker, but a guide. Headlights from Vikram's car cut across the trash hills, turning bottles into green fire and polythene into ghost wings, while the 2 unlikely hunters climbed back inside, the engine growling awake like a beast ready to chase the dawn. Vikram tucked the bracelet into his pocket beside the ticket, the journal open on his lap to a fresh page where Rohan had drawn a tiny boat with 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, sailing under a single star. And as the car lurched onto the potholed road, rain started again, soft at first, then harder, as though the sky itself wept for the time already lost and the fragile hope now racing against it. Every kilometer added weight to the silence between man and boy, broken only when Arjun pointed to a flickering tea stall and said, Rohan stopped here too. The uncle remembers because the boy left a drawing instead of payment. Vikram's pulse quickened. The trail was warm, the night endless, and somewhere ahead his son carried the same storm in his chest, sketching freedom one secret page at a time. Dawn bled into dusk and back again as Vikram's sleek car turned into a dusty traveler, chasing shadows through bus stands, thick with diesel smoke and chai steam, where ticket clerks shook their heads until crisp notes unfolded their memories. A quiet boy with a sketchbook, boarding southbound at twilight. Arjun perched on the edge of the seat, eyes sharp as a hawk's, pointing out shortcuts only street children know, alleys, behind fish markets, where the smell clung like guilt. Bridges where buses paused just long enough for a boy to slip aboard unseen. Vikram, whose voice once silenced boardrooms, now leaned close to hear Arjun's tales of sleeping under carts and trading bottle caps for bread, and each story chipped away at the wall he had built between his silk-suited world and the raw pulse of the city. At a tiny railway platform where trains screeched like wounded birds, A peanut vendor lifted a cardboard box to reveal a charcoal portrait tucked beneath Rohan's quick lines, capturing the vendor's gap-toothed grin. Paid for with a handful of coins and a shy smile that made the old man remember the exact train, the exact hour. Money opened doors. Yes, private drivers. Whispered tips. Phones buzzing with updates. But it was Arjun who tasted the air and said, "He's near the sea now." I smell salt on the wind, and steered them toward a coastal road where coconut palms bowed like tired dancers. Villages blurred past, each smaller than the last, until the car rolled into a cluster of painted huts where fishing nets dried like spiderwebs, and children chased chickens through dust under the ancient banyan whose roots draped the ground like old men's beards. A single sheet of paper fluttered, taped to the bark with a strip of red cloth, Rohan's newest sketch. The pencil strokes urgent yet tender. Vikram seated on a simple bench, shoulders bent, eyes soft with worry. Not the cold glare of boardroom photos, but a father waiting. The drawing stole Vikram's breath. He touched the paper, as if it might dissolve, tracing the lines that saw him clearer than any mirror ever had. Arjun's small hand tugged his sleeve. "He drew this yesterday," the boy whispered, pointing to a smear of fresh charcoal still on the tree trunk. "He's close. Sigh, feel it in my bones." Night settled purple and thick, cicadas screaming secrets into the dark, and Vikram found the village artist in a shack lit by a single bulb, brushes stuck in jam jars like tired flowers. The old man nodded at Rohan's name, took the folded letter. Vikram pressed into his palm words, scratched on hotel stationery promising art classes, open skies. A father who would learn to listen, and tucked it beneath a stack of canvases where Rohan came each evening to trade sketches for bread. Lanterns bobbed along the shore as fishermen returned, their songs low and salty, and Vikram stood at the water's edge, waves licking his shoes, wondering if his son slept under the same stars or if the letter would drift into the wrong hands. Arjun curled against a boat hull, eyes never leaving the path that wound into darkness, and every creak of wood or distant dog bark snapped their heads around, hearts racing with the possibility that Rohan might step from the shadows at any moment, barefoot and free, carrying the weight of dreams his father was only now learning to carry too. The first pale light of dawn crept over the sleepy village like a shy child, painting the sea in soft pinks and golds while weary gulls wheeled overhead, their cries sharp against the hush of waves that curled inside along the shore. Vikram sat on a weathered log, coat rumpled, eyes red from sleepless nights, the salt wind tugging at his hair, as if trying to wake him from a dream-turned nightmare. Beside him, Arjun hugged his knees, the boy's breath fogging in the cool air, both of them staring at the path that snaked from the huts. Every footstep in the sand, a question neither dared to voice. Hours earlier, the village artist had slipped away with Vikram's letter, promising to leave it where Rohan would find it at sunrise. And now the waiting stretched thin as fishing line, taut with the fear that the boy might have moved on again, vanishing deeper into the vast country that had already swallowed days of their lives. A dog barked somewhere, then silence rushed back, broken only by the slap of water against boat holes and the distant clang of a temple bell calling the faithful to prayer. Vikram's fingers worried the edge of the bus ticket stub, now soft as cloth from constant touch, while Arjun traced patterns in the sand. Tiny boats, tiny houses, his small face tight with hope he refused to let die. Then, from the curve of palms, a shadow lengthened, hesitant, barefoot, and Vikram's heart lurched so hard he stood without thinking, sand cascading from his trousers. The figure stepped into the light, Rohan thinner, cheekbones sharp, clothes patched with clumsy stitches. But his eyes, those eyes burned with a fire the city had never kindled, alive and unafraid. In his hand fluttered Vikram's letter, ink blurred where tears had fallen, and the boy stopped a few paces away, voice cracking like thin ice. "Dad," he said, the single word carrying every unsaid year. "I just wanted you to see me." Vikram crossed the space in 2 strides. No longer the man who commanded empires, but a father stripped bare, pulling his son into an embrace so fierce the letter crumpled between them. Apologies, tumbling out in a rush, sorry for the missed birthdays, the dismissed sketches, the nights Rohan ate alone while deals closed in foreign skies. Rohan's arms tightened, thin but strong, and he spoke against his father's shoulder, words spilling like tide. How the road had taught him to draw fishermen's faces for bread. How sleeping under stars made dreams feel possible. Yet every mile he walked, Arjun's brave journey, with the shirt echoed in his mind. A spark that maybe, just maybe, his father would follow. Arjun stood a little apart, sand between his toes, a shy smile breaking as Vikram turned, eyes wet, and knelt to the ragpicker's level. "You brought my son back," the millionaire said, voice thick, "and you gave me back my heart. Come home with us. Be family." The boy's grin flashed bright as sunrise. Then Rohan ruffled his hair, the three of them a small island against the vast sea. Months later, city galleries glowed with Rohan's paintings, waves that crashed in bold blues. Villages alive with color while Vikram, sleeves rolled, taught eager children to hold brushes instead of balance sheets. His empire quietly passed two trusted hands so he could keep promises made on a dawnlit shore. Arjun, cheeks rounder, wore a new shirt stitched by Rohan's own fingers, the fabrics soft with love, and in their sunlit home the original white shirt hung framed behind glass, its creases and stains a map of the journey from loss to belonging, a quiet reminder that the richest treasure is the heart that finally learns to see.